Welcome to the 2-month review, a weekly books podcast that's as hot as the Minnesota Timberwolves, in which we take one giant book, break it down bit by bit, section by section, talk about it, analyze it, goof on it, have some good times. This season, we are doing Praiseworthy by Alexis Wright. And today, we are actually finishing it. We are going to talk about the end of the book, what happens there, a couple jokes along the way. And then we are actually going to do a draft that we'll talk about more in a minute of all of our previous books and pick them to make a super class. I'm Chad Post from Open Letter Books, and I'm joined as always by Brian Wood, author of Joytime Killbox, and Kaya Stramanis, translator and editor at Open Letter Books. How are you, Brian?
I am doing very well. You're welcome with the Timberwolves, by the way. You're very welcome. And the reason I say you're welcome is because the Warriors were working out Anthony Edwards, and they probably weren't going to be able to draft him because, you know, the Warriors were too good. They didn't have the number one pick. But when they were working out, Steve Kerr was basically like, "Is that all you got?" And
Yeah,
like, what do you mean? I'm working my ass off. He's like, really? Is that all you got? Yep. And then he was working out with Clay and Durant and first name basis, Clay and Durant and Steph. And they're like, seriously, this isn't good enough. Like, if we had the number one pick, we probably wouldn't pick you because you're not working hard enough. And so he went back to his agent. Ant went back to his agent. He's like, I don't know what we got to do, but apparently I'm not working hard enough. I thought I was giving it everything I had, and I'm not. And so he went back and like rechanged everything, and now he's the best player in basketball, and is going to win a championship. And he's the illegitimate son of Michael Jordan. I'm positive.
I know that rumor is still that conspiracy theory I'm there for. I don't know why I like it, but I like it. It's so bizarre, and the evidence is like, so. If anyone doesn't know about this, Michael Jordan once said that he was having sex with 3 to 4 women a night for like a period of years during the peak of his career. He's like, there's a ton of children I don't know about, and I can guarantee one of them is playing in the NBA today. And then they take like in this YouTube video, they take like half of Michael Jordan's face and put up half of Ant's face, and they like match and look very similar. They're like, here it is. He would have been conceived around the time that Michael Jordan's boning everyone. So why not? Here we go.
When you're so good, the only way to explain it is that you must be the illegitimate son of the greatest basketball player ever. That's the only way we can explain this. That's how good Ant is. Holy cow. He's incredible.
I could talk about that this whole time, but otherwise, good go Timberwolves. I'm not going to jinx this. Kai, how are you doing?
Yeah.
You're in the office. There's books.
I am in the office. No, I'm fine. I'm here. Doing good.
Have you watched much Bluey? Because saying funnier than Bluey's mom, that's not saying a lot.
No, I know. This is why. So recently, our 6-year-old has started comparing real life to Bluey. So Chad has been labeled as not as funny as Bluey's dad. And
that's bullshit. I want that. I want a recount. That's a false election.
And that Chad's omelets are not as good as Bingo's omelets. And I figure saying that I'm funnier or calling myself funnier than Bluey's mom is pretty safe, low-hanging fruit, because Chili is just like Chili keeps shit together, but she's not trying to be the funniest. She's not trying to be. So it's pretty safe. It's a safe comparison, I think, or safe.
Yeah.
I win.
Oh my God. Fair. I've seen exactly one episode
so
of this
low
show.
In life right now. I'm aiming so low.
Speaking of aiming low, so did you guys finish this?
No.
I did.
The way you so confidently said at the beginning of the podcast that we are finishing this book, it's very adorable.
So yeah, as soon as I finished it, I put it down. I did a little happy dance, took my bottle of wine. Fuck yeah. Done.
It's 9 a.m.
Let's see. Let me guess. Is that a Saint Emilion?
It's a Tempranillo. Yeah, the 2023 Tempranillo. It's vegan.
Oh, those wines are just there for profiling purposes. I can't believe you bought that, Chad. Jeez.
I love me some Tempranillo at like, what time is it? 8, 10, 9, 10 in the morning? Great.
So if both of you finish the book, I am very interested in which one of you can gaslight me better into believing what the actual ending is.
Oh, because I told you and you didn't believe me.
No, why would I?
Okay, so let's get through this really quickly so we can get to the draft, which will be more fun. But and we can start with the end because literally, okay, I have 2 bits about it. One is that the ice pick Major Mayor's broadcast. I have a lot to say about that and his 4 queens. That's also very fun and weird. And I don't understand why it just happens at this point in the book. Doesn't matter. Construction seems to be willy-nilly all the way through this. But the ending then is that all of a sudden everything's like kind of worked out and Cosman Steele's like running a super successful donkey moving business. Everyone's moving all over. Everything's like hunky-dory for the most part. They still don't have Aboriginal sovereignty, but it's there. The ending line is
he lives on forever.
Yeah, the spirit of Aboriginal sovereignty never dies, for you can never destroy what was infinitely existing in the law of the country that always is and always will be governing itself. And so yeah, so it ends with like, and Brian, I'm right? Like I don't understand where this swerve took place or why. Just all of a sudden I was like, what's happening? Like everyone's like, go, so many donkeys, we're all moving, this is fantastic, blah blah blah. I was like, I don't know what to do with this book.
I mean, it sounds too good to be true, which is why I don't believe you.
I don't know. It's like some sort of like, for lack of a better term, magical realism optimism or something. I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, even like Tommy Hawk. So here it is. So everyone knew Widespread was loaded and could easily have built them a modern and luxurious transport lounge terminal somewhere else while using one of those perpetual government trainee labor schemes to make Aboriginal people economically independent. It's like they scam the government in some level. And then Tommy Hawk says he opened a can of worms, created a cult kid following like a comic strip, the thing which continued to this day, where the school children would start to listen to the white butterflies while they were killing themselves in the sea, doing this instead of listening to their white government school teachers. Opera, he called it. Butterfly Coma. I don't know what this is. It's like, yeah, it's a veer into like magical realism, but it's also like veers into kind of bullshit. I don't want to really bash this book, but this again was like, I don't know. I don't buy this thing. I don't buy this as a project anymore. I like the concept. I like the description. I like the individual lines. Listening to an audiobook might have been fun. As an overall book, I don't know that it works.
Well, I found myself in this weird space where I wasn't sure if I was supposed to read it as satire.
Yeah, I think you are.
And it felt very satirical to me to end that way, because it's been nothing but,
Misery.
like oppression and misery, and then to like, ta-da, right? So I felt like it wanted to be satire, but then I don't know if it was performed in a way where I was confident that I was reading it correctly, and I could just be dumb, because that's usually my baseline. But there's a little mishandling if that's the way it was going. And then if it's earnestly going for an upending, I don't know, it didn't work for me.
No, I don't. And I think if you're going to do it as the satire of this vein, that you've been playing within the satire all along of its own, like whatever, to just take a sudden big swing and like transform everything on literally the last 4 pages of a 670-page book. It's not really earned, and it doesn't really tie back in the right way. Like it doesn't illuminate anything new. It's just like, oh, here's the same things, but like, let's say instead maybe everything was great. Like I don't know that adds anything to the critiques of the Australian government and their treatment of Aboriginal people. I think it's just like it's weirdly performative in a way that's not interesting. Which I find this book has such good elements to it. Like the writing on the individual line level can be interesting and wild, and the core concepts of what needs to happen in the treatment of Aboriginal people, all fantastic. But then it's like just corny. Like so much of it is just corny, and like the jokes don't land very well, and like it's like it tries so hard. It feels like this book feels like it's trying so hard to just be everything and all these words and this like torrent of like the same sort of bit over and over again. And book could have used an editor. Which is something I never say.
Sure. So did either of you listen to she was on David Naiman's podcast, right?
Dude, I tried my best.
Okay, but so But so do we know, or do you know from what you listened to, does she give any exposition or explanation as to the workings of her writing in this book? Just quick answer, yes or no.
Not that I
Okay.
remember at all.
Okay, so we talked about this a bit this morning, Chad and I did, but even hearing you guys talk about now, like the sort of sudden happy ending of it, and I've been thinking about it, that I might enjoy experiencing this book more as an audiobook, and that is based off of my experience of listening to Ducks Newburyport, where I'm so into this voice actor's acting and her presentation of it, that I think that, and there is a lot of repetition, I think that listening to a book like Praiseworthy, listening to it, I might enjoy it more, because there is that oral storytelling, oral history aspect of it, and having that sort of instant happy ending does kind of sound not fairy tale-ish, but it does kind of sound like bedtime story, where, you know, you're down to the wire, you're like, we've been doing this for 600 pages, right. Everyone lived happily ever after, everything works out, like it's sort of throwaway, but like at the same time, that's something that ending can be so easily changed, like 10 years from now, 50 years from now, you can add on to those 600 pages or add on to that story, and just like the ending isn't important, I guess. You can, you know, is that making sense? The ending isn't the important part, because you can just tack it on, you can change it, you can make it everyone dies, all the donkeys explode, you can make it everything works out and it's hunky-dory, like you said, or you can extend it. And I think that has a lot to say. I used to know more about the sort of like oral story, history,
right.
But a lot of that seems to fit into that category of like the faults that you find with this book as a textual object might not be as present if it were
read. Okay, I have two comments about that. One is that I think with Ducks Newburyport, the repetition within the line, I should know what it is, but I can't remember what is it she says over and over and over again. The fact that repetition, but the book moves forwards. The ideas change. They're the same ideas, maybe like from the same like mind space, but they does go into other things. It circles, but it's circling around that phrase. It has that orality to it, but like it is advancing in like little recursive circles. This doesn't do that. Like this is oral in a way that like the ideas don't change, and the orality is just in the fun of like improving off of the same idea. But when they get to the ending, and you mentioned like the fairy tale, the fairy tale or fable like endings tend to have like you have your quest and then you have to accomplish something and things change. But there's an interior logic to it, that there's a moment in which that
got the Holiday Inn Wi-Fi going on.
Now you're back.
Oh, could you hear any of that?
No, we heard those dings though, or whoever, Brian, you dinging.
That's
no,
me,
we
sorry.
didn't hear any of that. And just to correct, that's why I said I don't mean that it's like a fairy tale. I mean, you can keep talking about the fairy tale, but it's let's say folklore, more like folklore than fairy tale.
While we're waiting for him, I thought, like, I guess for me, it was trying to figure out what was trying to be said overall with the text. And like kind of what I got from it, maybe with it being so long and the feeling of it being somewhat aimless, where you're just kind of floating in it and, you know, the impenetrable and hazy, is that these people have been here for as long as we know. They're going to be here long after. And so this is just a brief moment and it will continue on, which is why I don't know if like the happy ending, the sad ending, I don't know if that necessarily matters or not. But for me, it was like this idea of presence and permanence. And this like this is a really terrible, racist, awful thing happening right now, but it's probably just a blip on if we have a big enough scope, we're gonna outlast you. Bye. Like
yeah, that's fair. What I had said about the fairy tale thing is that there's like an interior logic that leads to like the positive ending or whatever it is. But this book doesn't work off interior logic that way. And there's nothing that precedes or gives cause to make that ending mean anything. But then as satire, again, I just want to say like the whole book's been satiric, but like this sudden veering seems weird to me because you could have had many different opportunities to satirize or to change it, but it's not done that up until now. Like, it's been the same thing. I don't want to belabor this because I mean it's clear. I think people should read 100 pages of this book, get a sense of it, read the background, listen to that David Naiman podcast. I think I listened to maybe half of it. It's a lot about her and her life and her background. It's a lot less chaotic energy than our podcast. And I like podcasts that have that dial turned a little bit higher, where there's a little bit more going on.
We're high energy, low IQ. That's the way I like to run this, you know.
Yeah, fucking best. Oh my god, yeah, me too. But anyways, the one thing I do want to say is that there's a great part in this book, and I'm going to give my line of the week away, and we can just move on after this. But the great part in this section that we read is where the Major Mayor Ice Pick, he basically has decided he wants to kill Cosma and Steel, right? This is also like, why is all this, like, some of this being introduced here on like the last like 50 pages? But he has a radio show at night, and in his radio show, it says this: each night he goes through this rigmarole, restarting his broadcast, aiming for perfection. Thou shalt not kill your children. No, that's right. You should not kill, before diverging into, fuck you, Cos. You should not kill, you asshole. And it reminds me exactly of the dig yourself out of the shit Dr. Jacoby thing from Twin Peaks: The Return, where he has like a radio show and he's just like, they take away everything. We've shaved the wool, they take the wool, then they get us sick, and they own the medicines, they take our fucking graveyards, and they fuck us. And it's like that sort of ranting is exactly what this reminds me of. And I was like, that's wonderful. But then all of a sudden it talks about his wife, who like, she just appears and her name's Maureen, which that's pretty funny. It's like Cosman, Steel, Ice Pick, and Maureen. And then his 4 black queens, as they refer to them, are like 4 women that like kind of follow, and as ice queens, they follow him and like support him. And that's also like kind of weird. But my line of the week, that's 100% the best line. And I don't know if I could ever use this in any other circumstances, but they're talking about ISIS people. The common people hanging around the world would say that ISIS people, and this is the quote, like the black queens who stick-handled his balls. Stick-handled his balls is a wonderful, rich phrase.
What's the physics on that though?
I don't care.
I don't even know what that is.
Stick-handled his balls.
All right.
So anyways, anyone have any final thoughts? Kai, would you recommend this to people?
I think similarly to what you said, I would recommend it. But I would recommend that people also not beat themselves up if they do not read to the end of it. Again, I'm very much into her style of writing. I do want to look at Carpentaria, and read that. I am interested in listening to the podcast with David that she did. But yeah, kind of wish she were a poet.
Brian?
I would not recommend it. It felt melodramatic and aimless.
Yeah. Yep, I'm somewhere in between all that. Perfect. Okay, let's move on. So we wanted to do a draft because I thought we would use, I knew that we were running out of steam on this. So I thought we could use this time instead to have a fun game in which we look back at what we've done. So I went through and looked at every single book we've included on the podcast. I did make Vernon Subutex 1 book instead of 3, just because I don't know how to separate those in my mind, like which one was which. And maybe someone else does, that's fine. But if you leave those as one.
The first one was good. The next 2, not as good. Is that what you're trying to remember?
I like the third one the best. When everyone dies. When everyone dies, I'm like all in.
Of course you do.
It's a favorite. So we've covered, if you keep that as one, 30 books on the podcast over the 22 seasons. They're all on this Google sheet that is in the comments that we have access to. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through we'll do a snake draft, because that will make this like more, that's like adding to the chaos when there's only 3 people, is to like move that chaos factor up to 13 now. And each of us get a draft, a book that's then will be taken off the board. So nobody can have the same books. And the goal is for you to create a 5-book reading list for an imaginary course. We'll then post all this information with our selections, and our viewers and listeners can vote, or anyone on Twitter can vote, or anyone who sees it can vote on which class they would take. If you had to choose between one of these 3 classes, with these being the reading list, which one are you most interested in taking? So
all my students get A+, just saying.
Do we create what the class is after we have our
Yes.
Because we might be stuck with something that we weren't. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I think that you can say the class is like international literature, and then at the end you can say the theme is blank, and you might draft towards a theme. Like I have 2 themes in mind already, but depending on how things play out, like I might have to pivot, obviously. So here's what I'm going to do. I have a random number generator open. Brian, you are number 1. Kaya, you're number 2. I am number 3. The person who gets to draft first is 2, which is Kaya, and then Brian. Kaya, Brian, me, then me, Kaya, Brian, and so on and so forth.
Hell yeah.
Ooh, okay.
You're gonna remind us when it's our turn, right? You're not just gonna like sit and let the clock count down.
Yeah, you get 4 seconds.
Okay.
So, no, I'm just kidding. So you have the list open. Well, we can talk briefly about each one, but we don't have an enormous amount of time, and we do have 15 books to be drafted. So we'll go through a minute, but to pick your book, say like what you said, or why, and then we'll just go from there. So you're on the clock, Kaya. Who are you picking?
Wait, you also have the Anne Quinn books as one, right?
No, I have each Anne Quinn book is separate because each Anne Quinn book is a different book.
Okay.
Brennan Supertext is 3 volumes of one book.
Okay, because you have that's just the season that it was on. Okay. Number 24 is taking 3 by Anne Quinn.
You're on the clock. All right.
This one's longer than my picking time. 3 by Anne Quinn.
3? Why 3?
Oh, we're talking about it now?
Yeah.
I think this is the book of hers that really clinched what I liked about her style. And as I was reading it, it also set off there's a Latvian author, Gonda Garepše, whose work I've been sort of translating here and there. And I think that Anne Quinn is what Gonda Garepše should sound like in English. And I love that. Like I love the prose. I love the sort of meandering but organized aspect of it. I think it's great. I just think it's great. That's the book that made me really fall in love with Anne Quinn.
Good deal. That works. Brian.
I'm sorry, I fell asleep. That was a really smart rationale for
It's okay, Brian. You still get an A+. You still get an A+, baby girl.
I would have picked triptychs because I like the drawings. So that's a little bit more your style, I assume, Brian.
Wow, man, I have a book that I really want for sure, but I don't know if I want to use it with my very first pick. And
TikTok.
I'm afraid if I don't pick it right now, I'm gonna lose it. Pitter
patter, Brian.
I've got 2 picks right after you.
I know I'm gonna get crushed, and the one I want, I know you're gonna take it, but I don't care. It sounds like a stupid bro pick, but I'm gonna go 2,666. You could teach the shit out of that book. So I'm going to start with that one.
2,666 for sure. That was the one that I was going to pick first. Obviously, because I was going to use the argument that one has its own Reddit thread. And so you would be able to attract a lot of students. You get a lot there. I am torn, and I kind of want to do something a little bit crazy. Which I think I'm going to do. Oh, God. I'm going to go in a direction I don't think anyone is expecting. My first pick is actually going to be Ed Park's Same Bed, Different Dreams, because
interesting.
he was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize this week. And I feel like that can help attract people. It's contemporary. It would be a book that if you're going to take a class, you'd be like, I'm in on this. This sounds good. But I'm going to pair it with JR, which is one of the greatest books that we have ever covered on the podcast. Has a richness of voice. You talk about the orality, contrast that with like something like Praiseworthy. You get to see like a big difference in writing styles. You can bring
richness of voice says.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, this is
Not
great.
trying to be
I'm
clever,
glad.
just the audiobook was fucking phenomenal. That man
It really is.
genius.
Guy is a
I am
genius.
glad that you went that direction because now I am set up perfect. Because
Good.
not only do I have 2,666, but I'm going to pair that with 4x4 by Sarah Mesa.
Damn it!
I
I thought about that.
I'm going to destroy you guys. My class is going to be so good. Okay.
It is.
Okay, so right now you guys are doing bro, numbers in Spanish. Okay.
Numbers, yeah, you got
Real
you got some number
interesting.
class. You'll have to pick Codex 1962 next.
Yeah, it will.
Sarah Mace's book, like all of her books are fantastic, but that really is still my favorite. And that that would be a great one for a class, especially if it's we're assuming college class, but it could be open to anyone. But like that it is set at a school means a lot, and like it does have like that dark gothic vibe. Good pick.
Yeah. If I lose this one, all right. This depends what happens with Kaya here. I might be onto something, but okay, go ahead.
Kaya, you get 2.
Is it? Oh, it's my turn now. Yeah, this is now where I get to. Do I try to screw you guys, or do I just go with my heart?
All right.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna do Mulligan Stew.
God damn it!
Oh,
Yes!
God damn it!
Okay,
That was my
reason for-
next pick. I was
Good.
building a whole thing here.
Good. Till death do us part, Chad. So Mulligan Stew, I want to do that because in Chad form, I have not read it. I've only heard little snippets, heard Chad read it out loud, listened to like one episode of the podcast, but the Monty Python vibes are strong in this one, and I would love to have it in a class. Also, because I think it's like you could argue it's the total opposite of Anne Quinn, but would love to experience Mulligan Stew first time with a group of students.
Yeah.
And next one,
Honestly, Mulligan Stew is for a teaching title is beautiful because every section you get to illustrate a different form of writing and how it shifts. And most students like at the college age don't understand like different styles of writing. Writing is just meaning to them, like getting the meaning and not like the approach. And Mulligan Stew can allow that moment to happen, which I think is key. So Mulligan Stew, great pick. Screwed me.
And then I'm gonna do Ducks Newburyport.
Woo! Big book.
Because I'm loving it.
Big ones.
Got a couple of thickos. Got a couple of thick picks. All right.
Is that going to be the name of your class?
Oh shit! Yeah, that'd be great.
I mean, three is literally like three is the frosting in between the layers, I suppose.
ooh, phrasing. Watch out.
Stick handled as balls.
Oh God. Okay.
You should see, dude. I'm reading this Alyosha Cole book, is like a near untranslatable, ununderstandable author, incomprehensible author. Writes like post Finnegan's Wake. I am in on it. I love everything about it. I think it's like fascinating. I'm going to create like a whole reader's guide for it. I'm brilliant. I think it's great. But the first line of the next part I have to read is like Morris stick through the umphalos. And I'm like, oh, this is a fuck imagery. And I was like, the rest of the paragraph is all like fuck imagery. So yeah, maybe I was a little queued up. I was a little prepped for stick handled as balls. Brian, you're on the clock.
All right. So to pair with 2666 and 4x4, I'm going to go Death in Spring.
Ooh, another good one. One of the like best books we've ever published for sure.
It's all like body horror, all three of these.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Death in Spring has so much of that in it.
And I like that they're all written in very different styles.
Truly. And
different. I could also stick with like Spanish if I want as well. I got that connection if I want. So we've got boom.
Catalan.
Spanish-ish. Did you just say?
Yeah, Spanish-ish.
Canceled.
Catalans aren't touchy about anything.
No, of course not.
But they're all authors that lived in Spain. So you got Spain.
Authors that lived in Spain.
Yeah, Catalonia is part of Spain. And Bolaño lived the rest of his life in Spain and Catalonia. So you're all good. I get you. I feel it. I am going to go with Ada or Ardor by Vladimir Nabokov as my next pick. So I've got Nabokov, Gaddis, and Ed Park.
Wow.
Yeah, building something here. and I think I want to pair
You're
that.
building a patriarchy is what you're doing.
I know. And so trust me, I've thought that through, and I'm going to lean into it by picking Thomas Janssen bestseller by Gudberger Bergson.
Damn it.
Is one of the big, wild, also Joycean sort of books from Iceland. Second season of this whole podcast, which I would like to. I mean, that was a different time, a different era of how we did it. That book is so good. I would want to reread that. And he passed away this year, not too many months ago. So R.I.P. Gudberger, but he was one of the greats, and that book is like a fantastic look at like both like island life, how that creates nationalism, various issues that come up, but also the stylized nature of it fits right in with everything else that I've got so far. So that's my pick. Brian.
I'm going to take The Physics of Sorrow.
Boom. You veered away from Spain.
Ish. Spain-ish.
You bitch. Spain-ish, yeah. It's close enough.
Physics of Sorrow. I saw him.
This is such a long time ago when we read this book, but gorgeous. Again, I like the idea of like countries, policies, big governments, like this, like oppression and molding and shaping of things and the creation of monsters.
Yeah. But Gorgie is amazing. I saw him in the London Book Fair because they had a huge celebration for him winning the International Booker Prize for Time Shelter, which Time Shelter is good. Time Shelter is a good book. Physics of Sorrow, I think, is still his true overall.
That's my favorite of his. Yeah.
Absolutely. Kaya, you got to round out. So you have Ducks Newburyport, you have 3, and you have Mulligan Stew, and now you have your last 2 picks.
All right, I'm gonna do Fox by Dubravka.
That was my next one. You're gonna just force me into the patriarchy. I'm having no choice here. I've got all men on the board left.
You've got plenty.
It's funny. The end of this book had mentioned salamanders, and Fox made me think of that whole salamander chapter.
What is the salamander thing? Like I remember you talking about this. I meant to look it up. Don't they like poison wells, or there's like something about salamanders that is?
Well, it depends on the culture. Okay. But in Europe, it's like your house burns down, they're bad luck. Like, yeah, they'll poison everything.
Got it. Yeah. Oh yeah, because people thought they were born of fire.
Mm-hmm.
Curious.
Great pick,
I'm
though.
gonna.
Yeah, Dubravka, R.I.P. Also very amazing pick, very amazing writer. Let me plug one thing in relation to Fox for anyone listening to this. Open Letter is publishing Ugreshik's final book, A Muzzle for Witches, in September of this year. If you're a reviewer or a bookseller and you want a copy of it, hit me up. Otherwise, pre-order it through our website, which is openletterbooks.org, and that is my attempt at selling.
Your attempt at selling, it's great. Nailed it.
Bring a little stoicism to this podcast.
I'm going to throw sort of another Mulligan Stew-esque and go with Monster Human. It's one I've not read. So I've got 3 English and 2 translated.
Nice.
And good 4 women and 1 man.
Yep. And Kirsty's book is interesting, is that it would really resonate with students, given that it's like about struggles related to health and to other like both physical and mental conditions that comes out of that. It's got, a good narrative.
And the creative creative process, what it is for an artist to create art.
And to battle through that. She's a really wonderful author. Child is an amazing book that got buried in the landslide of mother books at that time. But anyone who's interested can go back and read. I'm going to do some sort of thing soon for our like Norwegian writers.
I'm getting goosebumps thinking about Child. That's that book is but it's so good.
Really is. So Brian, your final pick.
All right. Well, I have to stay. There's some other books I'd really like to add, but I'm thinking about what I've done thematically. I think a great way to think about this idea of like creating monsters and what happens. I'm going to go with Radiant Terminus.
Ooh,
to round it out.
Nice.
So Physics of Sorrow, Radiant Terminus, 4x4, Death in Spring, and 2666.
Very cool. Very good list. I would take that class for sure. And I'm going to round it out with my final pick, which I'm surprised it was still on the board this long, and I thought you were going to take it, is The Invented Part by Rodrigo Frazan.
Yeah,
Best Translated Book Award winner. Beautiful book, but that ties into my Nabokov. Bergson ties into Nabokov.
God, does it ever, yeah.
JR is like right in that same vein. And then Same Bed, Different Dreams is the contemporary sort of, and brings a lot of that together because Ed's already been invested in all that. So that was my kind of thinking behind it. I did end up with 5 men. So my class is called The Patriarchal Writers of the 20th Century.
No, what is it? No, it's called the stick movement of the balls, whatever your thing is.
Stick handling the balls.
Stick handling the balls.
Male literature.
Maximalist.
Yeah.
Maximism. Men and maximalism. It's worth your time.
Yes. Men and maximalism is brilliant.
My class is going to be called Dismal Lady Stuff, and I'm going to find a way to make mulligan stew fit into that.
Well, there are dismal ladies in mulligan stew for sure.
Dismal Lady Stuff. That's what it's called.
And Brian, you've got monsters, so that works.
Yeah,
so
I don't know.
Monsters,
body horror.
Monsters Inc. Yeah. Can you do something like that?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I want to figure out how to get Cronenberg in there somewhere, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, these all be fleshed out by lots of films and YouTube videos. That's the main thing. That was fun.
What's the next assignment then? We do a course write up?
No, if you want to give me a title for your course, that's great, because I'll post them all. Dismal Ladies. And then Brian, I forget, did you say what it was? A monsters?
No, I'll figure something out.
Figure something out. Just text me. And I'm going to post these on Instagram I think you could do a poll on Instagram, and then do a one on Twitter where people can vote on which one's the best, and we'll reconvene about it and at the beginning of the 23rd season and see who was the most popular teacher. Put it on our website, obviously, too. So a couple other bookkeeping things. Well, one, here's some of the books that got left off that are kind of interesting. Pessoa. No Pessoa.
I was not a big Pessoa fan. I know he's got a cult following, but
yeah,
I liked the cover design better than I think I liked what was inside the cover.
Agreed.
It's also the only poetry book that you guys have done, right?
Not really poetry.
Oh, okay.
No, it's like no, we refer to it as poetry because it's like reading Rupi Kaur like on blast, like
it's kind of meditative. Like almost like like meditations and
and like that book was problematic for us. Shown, then a couple like Monica Ramon Rios and Carmen Bioso. Those are from the season we did 3 at once, which is tricky.
With 4x4, yeah.
With Tarzan Fire was a contender for my list.
Yeah, me too. Until I saw like where things were breaking and just leaned into big ass mail books.
We've not done a lot of story collections because there's just the collected stories of Rotoreda and Cars on Fire, I believe, right?
Cars on Fire and The Unmapped Country.
Unmapped Country.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah, those are the only ones.
Shoot, I think it was Unmapped Country, which was the one that set me into the zone with the Latvian author, but that's fine.
I don't think so, because Unmapped Country, I don't know if you read, but it's like it has like a retelling the proto version of Triptychs, and then a bunch of other random stories that are only like sometimes fragments and not finished. I think it was 3 is the one that or Berg, one of those two, I think was the one that you
I liked. As one of the ones with the short stories, I thought that I was like, holy shit, this is it. But that's okay. I'll pick 3. That's fine.
Now that I think about it, 3, interestingly enough, is very reminiscent in retrospect of the John Hawkes books that I'm way into right now. She would pair well with John Hawkes, especially like the Blood Oranges, Death, Sleep, and the Traveler era, which is great. So we have all those, and then so I'll post all that and we'll do that. The last thing that's important, I think people are waiting for, that are listening to this very end, because as we all know, everyone listens to our podcast from second one to the end, and is that they might be waiting to hear what the next book is. And so we have decided, we didn't really talk about it. I just sort of dictated it to you guys and no one complained. So we're just going to go with it. Which I guess is how this usually goes, unfortunately. There's little democracy in this fiefdom. But what we're going to read next is Lanark, A Life in 4 Books by Alistair Gray. This came out when did it originally come out? 1981. And it is considered to be one of the greatest Scottish books of all time. Alistair Gray is a visual artist as well as being a writer, and was incredibly famous and incredibly well respected throughout his life. His big book that people might know, this is his big book. This is the one that was he died in 2019. That's what I was checking. This is his masterpiece, according to anyone who's read him. He has other books like Janine 1982 that are fantastic. Lots of stories, does a lot of drawings, and also was the writer of Poor Things, which the movie popularized kind of weirdly in reverse. And Poor Things is also a brilliant book, a little shorter than Lanark. And it might be, and the one thing that we need to figure out is if it's Lanark or Lanark at some point in time. I have no idea. But it's more of a Bildungsroman with some not science, kind of science fiction-y twists within it. I read it once in 2003, and I remember thinking that it was one of the desert island books. One of my top 10 desert island, just purely enjoyable, sort of sexy in weird ways books. And if you ask me right now to recount anything about it, the only thing that I have in my mind is a vague memory of some kid of the main character going in through a portal that might be a mailbox. That might not exist in this book whatsoever. I do not know. So you guys down?
Yep.
I don't have a choice. Sounds great.
Oh my God, it's so good. Yeah,
that sounds good.
I think this is gonna be fun. We can, by this point in time, he goes to Unthank is the place that he goes to. What we can do is I think that Poor Things is going to be available to stream for people soon. And I've read that book recently because we retypeset it all, redesigned it all for it to be reissued as a Delkey Essential. And then turned out that the renewal contract had never been signed and HarperCollins just straight fucked us. So their version is available and looks like ass, I just want to say. But if anyone's interested, watch Poor Things. It's not that it relates to Lanark exactly, but it's in the same sort of aesthetic view. So anyone who's interested and likes that movie or the book, tune in, get a copy of Lanark. We're going to start up in June. Sound good? Beginning of June. And we'll be good to go. I think it'll be a fun, weird season. I don't know how many people I know that have read this. I know a lot of people said they've wanted to, but maybe we'll have some other spot guests or whatnot along the course of the summer. Anyways, I guess that's a wrap on Praiseworthy. Wee woo, everyone.
Wee woo.
Pitter patter. Anyone have any final notes? If you're either of you?
Never.
If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe and leave us comments about what you find valuable or not. And if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, any comments, any ratings, reviews, those are very helpful for visibility. So please do that. Tune in, subscribe. We'll be back. There'll be announcements on the 3% website of the actual reading schedule and through our Twitter, and I'll put it on Instagram. So till next time, I'm out of here.
Bye.
Do you think people do Bluey cosplay?